you for the opportunity to be able to go into your word one more time. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to go into your word one more time and see what it says to us, what it means for us, to the praise of your glory. I ask you to help us as we go in and look, that we'll be able to extract from it what we need to be beneficial to your people. Amen. Amen. And even so, amen. As you all very well know that have been with us, we've been looking at the unholy Bible, the Bible that was copied from Fisk University by David Charles Mills. And he went and did the research on it to make sure people could understand why it is out of 1189 chapters of the Bible, about 90% of what is called the Oldest Testament was left out. And about 50% of the Newest Testament, or what we call the New Testament, was left out. And one of the challenges that he made, and one of the challenges that I see that is viable, is not to just look at those chapters that were left in, but why were the other ones left out? The purpose of that Bible was to make our people docile, subservient, willing to endure torture, terrorism, rape, and to make sure that we would provide many goods, services, to give prosperity to the overlord class, whether it was tobacco, cotton, textiles that they would definitely have to make, indigo, rice, and any other such things. I mean, all the way down to turpentine and steel and doing stuff in the railroad and digging out coal. But this is what was used. Dr. John Hope Franklin called it seasoning the slaves. So when this unholy Bible was codified in the early 1800s and sent to the British West Indies, this wasn't the first time that these things were being taught to the captured people. It's now codified. It's now put in a way where individuals that are in charge could look at it and say, this is what you teach them. This is how you make them what you want them to be. And one of the biggest problems subsequent to that is we as a people today, we use the same format. Actually, we've added to it. You know, like when we were looking at the fourth chapter of Genesis that was left out, Lamech told his wife, I killed a young man for hurting me, and I killed another one for wounding me. And if Cain is going to be avenged 7 times, I'm going to be 70 times 7. I'm going to take it even deeper. Well, if in the slaves' Bible, they determined that so much of the Oldest Testament that I've shown you many times before, I'm not going to show you today. If I need to show it again, I can show it the next time as we move into chapter 9, if we're able to get to chapter 9. And one of the things that we've done is that we don't even want the Oldest Testament. We don't want it. We want to say that at a certain dispensation, God stopped doing these things anyway. We don't need it. We've allowed people to tell us let's unhitch ourselves from that. All we need to know is Jesus Christ and him crucified. That's what people, when they read in the Bible, and they might see Paul say that, and yet to say that that's what Paul said would be true insofar as the words. But insofar as what he meant by that, we have a compendium of his writings. He wrote most of what we call the Newest Testament. And he is the one that talks about the Christ coming. He is the one that goes into Deuteronomy and show that Christ was the word. He is the one that shows that he is the one that must be believed in. He is the one that shows that there has to be a resurrection power in the life. He is the one that wrote that the grace of God will teach us to deny ungodliness and worldly lust and to live soberly and righteously and godly in this present age. He is the very same one that took a Nazirite vow. He is the very one that says, I'm an Israelite. I'm a Hebrews of the Hebrews. As touching the law, I was blameless. And yet, we will still conduct ourselves as if that oldest testament has nothing to do with us. And then we will take the same teaching that we were given, that we don't have to obey the highest master, but we need to obey the lowest master. And in doing these things, we realize, those of us that have looked, you can really go. I gave it to one person on one of the comments that was on the YouTube, and if the comment come again, I'll put it up. Put a video where you can look at it's called the Bible Museum Slave Bible. It's about a minute and a half, and that curator will tell what this was for. So tonight, without any further ado, we need to go back to where we were in Genesis chapter 4 and chapter 5. We should be entering into why it is we believe, based upon history and what has been done, that this was left out of the Bible that was given to destroy a heritage in people, to destroy an individual's self-worth, to destroy a relationship that people had with the Most High God, and to make them bow the knee to a two-footed creature called man and worship him as God. That's what we're talking about tonight. We talked on the Sabbath about how leaving out Genesis 4 allowed for people to say that it's a pre-Adamite world, that we black people were cursed before we came to the earth because of a war in heaven. And Joseph Smith and his followers called them Lamanites and said they were cursed. And the other one, the Nephites that were so blessed, they were pure and white. They had done what was right. And we showed many other sundry things that they did. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and open up our floor for discussion, because there are some things that I'm pretty sure that we didn't get to cover. And Andrina, you were bringing us last week, you were tying up some things with the religion of the Mormonism. Do you remember any of that you were talking about, just in case this is the first time somebody's joining us without having to go all the way through it? I don't even know if she can hear me. Are you all able to hear me on the channel?
What was the question?
I was saying the things that you were bringing up and showing about how we were cursed by leaving out the information that was given in the book of Genesis chapter 4. It was used against us, not only to tie us down mentally, physically, but to cause us a trauma. And you know for a fact, I'm not one of those that jump in on everything that they say about mental illness, because I know that they used to use mental illness to put us in asylums, to give us injections, to actually many times get rid of us. They even called when we didn't like the doctors because they experimented on us. They formulated a disease called iatrophobia. Then they had another disease that if a black person wanted to run away from the slave master, and I forgot the name of that disease, but I think you probably got it on the tip of your tongue, right? Come on, say yes.
Which disease, sweetie?
You remember when they said that there was a disease that caused black slaves to want to run away? They gave it a name.
Oh, I can't even think of it right now.
It's okay. It was a disease. Somebody can look it up. But go back to that, what you were saying, to bring anybody that wasn't with us.
Dryptomania or something like
Yes.
that.
Drip. I think it's DRIP,
Dryptomania,
like dripping water, driptomania. You're
right.
beautiful. You're a beautiful lady and exciting girl. Go ahead now.
So what was your question?
Am
What
I
you
not
wanted to
clear?
answer?
I need to know if I'm
You
not clear
said
because
some
you
more
can't hear
after
me.
you said a little bit more after the question, so it made me kind of forget the question because I started thinking about what you were saying. So you
Okay.
were asking me to talk about,
I don't think Elder Floyd was with us on Saturday.
okay, so
And there were some things, I mean, in a nutshell, the things that were left out to actually humiliate us and to bring us down. And the Mormons really did a good job on it. And that's where you were.
okay, so the whole theme is to show why, to actually just try to figure out why certain books of the Bible were left out in the slaves Bible. And then you said it's 1808 and not 1908.
Right. I said it incorrectly.
Okay.
They started in 1803 and they published one in 1807 and 1808. And
Okay.
under Law and Gilbert, if somebody look it up, you can find it. Won't be called the Slave's Bible, but you'll see it on Amazon. It's not as good as David Charles Mills, but it is there, the original facsimile. Okay.
Okay. So the point of us having this series is to, they have our playbook and they decided to remove certain things from the Bible and give it back to us. And there was a particular purpose of them doing that, which was to season the slaves, to convince them that this was their lot in life given to them by God, that they were destined and predestined to be enslaved and to be pretty much the servants of all humanity. And they called themselves humanity because nobody that was Black was human except them. They were, only white people were human. So this is the reason that they took certain books out of the Bible and gave it back to the slaves and said, listen, you need to see that this is ordained by God that you are a slave. So we were going through Genesis chapter 4, which is the chapter that they left out. And we were trying to decipher, at least try to figure out, why did you leave this out? And so my point is that what I could see from it is that they gave a narrative about Black people being the seed of Cain, and that the mark of Cain, the mark that was given to Cain after he killed Abel, was blackness, and his face was turned black, and therefore, this is why we're cursed. That was the curse. The mark was the curse, and the mark was being black. And so that narrative they set it out in the Protestant church, the Catholic church. It's also in the Talmud, some of the writings. I don't know exactly if it's a Talmud, but it's some of the writings of Judaism. And this was perpetuated through, even with um, what's the church you was talking about?
The Mormons, Jehovah's Witness.
Jehovah's Witnesses. So that was the curse. The curse was us being Black. So if you're creating that narrative and you're saying that we should understand that we're cursed because we're the seed of Cain and we're cursed because we're Black, that's not in scripture. You cannot go through that fourth chapter and get that. So they would have to leave that out. They would have to leave that fourth chapter out because it contains those things about Cain and his history concerning Abel and concerning the curse, because it doesn't say that. So you left it out and you created a different narrative and say you was cursed because you was Black. But if you read chapter 4, you don't get that. You cannot get that the curse was being Black. And I was saying, okay, let's see if it were true. Let's grant it that they were telling the truth.
This is going to
That
be good, you all. This is going to be good. Uh, I should have thought of it myself, but I have a help me. Go ahead,
so
Andrea.
let's just grant that they were telling the truth, that the curse was actually us being Black, okay? And that's the way God cursed us. That was the mark. The mark was us being Black. Well, if they were allowed to read that, actually read chapter 4, they would see that that curse that they call blackness was the very thing that was, he said they can't kill you because of this mark. He said, yes. He said, everybody that's going to see me going to want to kill me. He says, no, they won't. And it'll be avenged upon them 7 times. So the blackness would have been a protection as opposed to being an actual curse. It should have been that you can't kill us then because it's going to be avenged on you. So they had to absolutely leave this out because it didn't go with their narrative, and they started making up things. And we all know that they create narratives. If you don't know this, you need to know this, and that they tell lies, and they'll tell you lies, and they'll have you repeating them as fact. But that this was a collaboration, that they all got together and decided that we would not teach Black people this chapter, but we'll tell them that that your curse is Cain and you curse because you're Black. So that's in part. Um,
You did a fantastical job on rehabbing what we went through. Can you see my screen?
yes.
I want to iterate what she just said on the screen. Look at what was left out. Let's look at Cain had killed his brother. And so Yah came and he said, I'm looking at Genesis 4 and 10. What have you done? I know it said has. What have you done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. There's something in that she brought up, and I'll just say it, that slaughtered people, people that are murdered unjustly, their blood cries for justice. And there's no way that they wanted the slaved, captured, beaten people to know that the voice of their loved ones that didn't get to make it on the ship, that were killed for fighting, that were thrown overboard for fighting, that were fed by dropping down in the water with ropes and half of their bodies eaten off, and some beaten and killed on the ships, and some that they got to see killed every day and lynched and beat and burnt and branded. There's no way they wanted them to know that Yah hears, that Yah God hears. That was left out. He didn't want them to teach that, and neither did they want those that would use that Bible to season their slaves into docility, into timidness, to take the terror of not knowing whether somebody's going to take your wife out of the bed at night and rape her and bring her back to you soiled, or your daughter, or take your child and whip him. There is no way. You wanted those that did these practices to feel guilt. You needed them to be able to teach what you wanted to promulgate so that you could continually have this free labor continue. And so verse 11 says, and now thou art cursed from the earth, which has opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. That's talking as if you made a libation. For those that don't know what a libation is, a libation is a liquid sacrifice. Yahweh would allow them to use wine, the blood of the grape, as a libation when they made the other sacrifices. Here, the most low, the devil, because when you have bitter envy and strife, there's confusion in every evil work, says James 3. Is that this wisdom come not from above, but is earthly, sensual, and devilish. The earth opened her mouth to receive that wicked libation. And he says in verse 12, when you tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond is the same thing as wanderer, shalt thou be in the earth.
Stop right there for a second.
Okay, precious.
If you go back, scroll back up because I can't see that verse anymore.
When thou tillest.
When you tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her increase. If you
Are
bring
you
in a
in
people,
Are you in NA? Are you in
no, I just read it
ESV?
right here. I just read it from right here, sweetie.
Okay.
When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. I said increase. Stop right there. It wouldn't make sense for you to go and take people, steal people, bring them to this land, make them till and keep your ground if it would not yield the increase. Why would you go get a people who you say come from a cursed man, whose hand, when he put it to the soil, it will not yield increase? We know for a fact that everything, like it says about uh, everything the slaves put their hands to do, they did it well.
Yes.
They agriculture, doing cotton, doing tobacco. We know the ground yielded this increase to them. Why would you go get a people who you say are cursed from Cain, that the ground will not bring its increase forth for them to till your ground? We know it's not true. You went and got them specifically to do that.
Yes.
So you had to leave this out. It doesn't make any sense for you to say you Cain, you cursed, you from the seed of Cain, you're cursed, and you have the curse of Cain. Then why would you come to me to do your agriculture? It just said it wouldn't yield the increase to me. It wouldn't give me the strength. Why did you come get me to do it?
Very
Wouldn't it
great
be
point.
better for you? Wouldn't it be better for you to do it since you're not cursed? Since the ground would yield to you, right? The
Correct.
strength of it. Why would you come and get us? Because this is not true. You had to leave this out because it doesn't fit your narrative. That's what I wanted to say on that point.
Thank you. Anybody else want to mention anything on that before I move on to the rest of those verses? But I will show you this since she brought that up. Let me share the screen. Okay, new share. Ta-da. And that's where I want that one right there. See this book right here called Capitalism and Slavery by Eric Williams.
Yes.
I own this book, okay? And slavery's capitalism. These books, these kind of books, let you know why we were brought here. We weren't brought here because we want to learn or they want to teach us Christianity. We wasn't brought here because we're going to be able to sing, "My country 'tis of the sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing." We wasn't brought here to be told that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men were created equal and endowed. How does it go? I ain't even gonna try to quote it right, but with something from our created for the pursuit of life, liberty, and some in the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. First of all, it was the pursuit of property, and it was changed. The slaves were the property, it was called chattel. And created equal was Latin. It was dealing with Roman law. So if you were born a slave, you'll stay a slave. If you were born free, you were born free. That's why when Paul in the book of Acts talked to that man and he said, you're gonna let, wait a minute, you're gonna let us out in secret? Really? And you condemned us openly and you beat us openly as Roman citizens? And then I didn't know you were a Roman citizen. Well, I paid a great price to get Roman citizenship. And that means to get the liberty as a free man. I bought my freedom. Paul said I was freeborn. That same type of law, Roman, is what made it where the persons under the Declaration of Independence that wasn't written for them. If you want to call me a liar, look at your date of your Declaration of Independence, and then look at your date of your Bill of Rights, 1791, when they gave 10 of them. And the first one, you had freedom of your religion, right? Freedom of speech. Do you think that any slave had freedom of speech? He couldn't even testify in court. They had the right to bear arms. You could just go into Google and just say anti-weapon laws against slaves, but we can deal with that later on. I'm just showing you. But in 1857, the Supreme Conservative Court, to conserve the Union. That's why when you talk about the Civil War, it was to conserve or to preserve the Union. That's all that Mr. Abraham Lincoln said he was interested in. To conserve the Union, they had a Supreme Court to make sure things flowed as the document went. And in understanding how the document was set up, first of all of the people that were of color that wasn't free-born, they were not included. They didn't have citizenship. 1790 gave citizenship to our white counterparts in the world. Read it. It's called the 1790 Naturalization Act. It's written down. That's why I talk about it. If it was just something somebody said, that's different. But in 1857, Chief Justice Tony, it looks like Tenny, I was told it's pronounced Tony. He says a black man has no right that a white man has to honor. We didn't have citizenship. So therefore, if we didn't have citizenship, the Declaration of Independence could not be for us. So when Andrina brought that out, Cain, you're going to bring a person here that's going to have the ground cursed? What about all my tobacco? What about all my rice? What about the little sticks that I found that I used to make chewing gum in the Wrigley Company by it? I just thought I'd bring that out because we didn't have rights. And when they did call themselves going to give us rights with the 14th and 15th Amendment, if you go read the Slaughterhouse Trial, you'll find out the 14th Amendment was given to corporations like LLCs. That's why you can get shut down on these platforms, because they say that that's not the state, that's not the government, that's the individual has a right to do certain things. Have you ever heard of the United States government ever pretending to be something when they're not, doing stuff in a clandestine manner? If you haven't, maybe you don't watch movies, maybe you don't read, but let's go back. Let's go back to Cain. So what I need to do is go back, do a new share, and make sure I get, that's where I want to be right there. So the earth will not yield her strength or her increase, which is really true. So you notice I hear the word crop, strength, and a fugitive and a vagabond shall you be in the earth. All right, and here we come. And Cain said, for those that don't know, I call it Andrina sometimes. If I say and, it's the same person, okay? It says, and Cain said unto Yahweh, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, and it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. And Yahweh said unto him, therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And Yahweh set a mark upon Cain, lest, what is that word? Lest, except, without, okay? Lest finding him should kill him, lest any finding him should kill him. And Cain went from the presence of Yahweh and dwelt in the land of Nod. Her point being, if we were the seed of Cain, and you're killing us. You're going against the very thing that Yah gave Cain for his protection. Did I say it well? Did I reiterate you well? Yes, Tim, you did. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Why you laughing, Tim? I can't talk like you.
Funny.
Anybody else had anything on what we covered on Sabbath? Because we can move on. There are some more things that are in this chapter. We got some things about Lamech, and we have some things about his two wives, and then we go to chapter 5. Is there anything that you all have looked over to see that you can figure out why you feel that they left that part out of the slave's Bible? Because remember, this is a challenge that I believe should be answered. Go ahead. I heard somebody say something, but then it stopped. Or was I imagining things? Yes, sir.
Of the word, we have vengeance. I mean, I think I'm really saying kind of what we were saying on this past Saturday, but vengeance. When we look at all of the books, I mean, there is no righteous response to anything that they've done. And so, if you bring down through history and you look at Denmark, BC, or any of those who revolted against them, and which one was it? Was it BC that actually brought the Bible to them? I forget which one.
It was Denmark VC, or by the other name Delimont. Same person.
Yeah. So you take all this out, and I was looking at this, and so I know we're not in Exodus, but when you look at Exodus and see that they only had 2 chapters, and it's 19 is where Moses comes down and tells them what they're supposed to do. Well, you don't question. You really just obey. So the vengeance here is really extends out to me as well, because they don't want that. Don't put anything. Don't have anything in your heart or mind that's going to speak of justice and that we did something wrong.
Yes, absolutely.
But I know Ann, when we were talking, toward the end, she had mentioned that about Lamech, and I was looking at it, what Cain had said in one way about my punishment is too great. But then looking at how Lamech, I can't remember exactly how she had mentioned it, and I'm thinking of verse, was it 24,
If Cain,
Cain shall be
I'll
avenged.
read it. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold.
And if I'm not mistaken, or Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like, okay, so if God's judgment was as such for Cain that no one was to kill him, then that's like, because I hadn't thought about it this way. It's like, so I'm really making it so that this injustice will not happen, that anyone is to harm him or his seed. So I looked at it as if Lamech was just being over, like, okay, I'm really exalting myself.
That's it.
Like some of that is in there, but she brought another angle. I was like, oh, never thought of it that way. So so I mean, they would definitely kill those who would rise up. Okay, so anyway, I don't want to ramble, but this was good. I mentioned that in certain parts of the Spanish speaking world there was this man who had risen up and helped the slaves survive, and they actually fought against the Spanish. They made a contract with him, but then they later killed him. They killed that man, and they had a contract, and they went against it, and they killed him. So I think we just continue to see this. So of course they don't want us to understand the scriptures this way. They don't want us to understand the scriptures this way because they become God. Anyway,
I can go with that. One thing that I do notice in teaching and leaving out this about the rest, this information about Ada, Zillah, and Lamech, they left out a lot of cruelty that they did. They left out that if anyone harmed Cain, how bad it would be. And yet they said we're the descendants of Cain, and look at how they were harming us. And they switched the narrative. I don't know if you all know anything about etiquette laws, but I've been reading some of that in my book, An American Dilemma. And that book talks about the United States and the Negro problem, about 1,300 pages. But under etiquette laws, there were certain ways you had to address the master. Do you remember when Daddy used to tell us how Grandpa Bart used to be scared of white people? And when he walk out, how you do, sir?
Yeah.
How you do, ma'am? And walking on the sidewalk, had to step off the step and lower his eyes because, because I couldn't understand it because in my world, I didn't have to do all that. But when I read these laws, many of men had been hung for looking. Person could have just been very unattractive, maybe had a Habsburg jaw, like some of the royalty in England where they had did so much incest that their jaw kind of looked real protruding, hanging out, looking really bad. They had etiquette laws, certain places. You're on a bus, you better get up. You're on a train, you better get up. You better not even sit in the section that's not labeled for you. And it was as if they were doing 70 times the vengeance on a black person for not following etiquette laws, not killing somebody. Lord knows if they fought back and the person died. You all know I have books like Without Sanctuary, full of pictures of our people just being hung by Christians. They would do it after church. So I don't think that that's everything that could be extracted, but the Messiah said you'll know a tree by its fruit. What has been the fruit that parallels this chapter that we see enacted? And if I see the fruit that parallels what is in this chapter enacted, and you didn't want us to know it, I have good reasons, as the words of Dr. Greg Bunson, I believe I have justifiable reasons to understand why this was not to be taught to us. Case in point, today, why is it that Governor DeSantis and people in Texas, and I've seen people almost cry, we don't want our children to be taught CRT. Well, we got to teach them Black history. And yet, I was taught a lot of things. I was taught American history. I actually would go around like a mentee to a man that taught white, conservative, Confederate history, and I didn't know that he was teaching Confederate history, but he would talk to me about Oliver Cromwell. He would talk to me about Bishop Laud, John Calvin. He would talk to me about the different ones that were the Roundheads and just a lot of things like that, and how proud he was of the Union. And they have reenactments. And before I learned these things, he had told me this is how I fell out with him. One day we were talking, and he told me that we need to be glad that we enslaved you all, because you all would still be savages in Africa today. He said that with his mouth, with such authority. And when I got through talking, we took about maybe 15 minutes without really pause. Just going through historical records. His wife, subsequently, when I did get to meet him again, he and his wife, we were at his house. What did she say his reaction was, Andrina? I'm not gonna tell it because that way they'll know I'm not fabricating.
He cried.
And what was his body doing?
Trembling.
This is the power God wants us to have, saints. He wants us to know the truth. The truth will make us free. The truth can free the minds of those that feel like they civilized us by raping us and stealing us and selling our children and burning us and branding us and making us do all kind of despicable acts, doing sodomy to our husbands, throwing our children out there to the animals, separating us, making us march almost 1,000 miles and saying that civilized us and that we were the savages. This is the kind of gospel when we tell the truth, it can cause those people that are the sons and the daughters of those people that say color doesn't matter, race doesn't matter, while you're still living in the homes where they flooded the area of Lake Lanier. And you made nice homes that you didn't live in. Where they right up there at Forsyth County, when you told them they better get out, and they had 24 hours. When you did that in Rosewood and everything that was done in what we call Red Summer, they got to know the truth. And if we're not going to tell them, if we're not going to tell them the truth and what the Most High Yah say justice and judgment is, why would you expect for them to ever have to deal with the issue of rightness? And we that have been the recipients of them owning what was taken from our parents, trillions of hours of labor without pay, when y'all say the labor is worthy of his reward. This is what the Bible says. We have to understand that there was a reason y'all let this happen, but it was not our perpetual place to be in that position. If the Bible is right, and I know that it is, it says that great peace have they which love thy law, thy Torah, nothing shall offend them. The Bible tells us that if we don't walk in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stand in the way of sinners, he said he would make our way prosperous. We would have good success. He said he would fight for us. And he has more than one way to fight for us. Sometimes he would use the rain. Sometimes he would use hail. Sometimes he would use fire. Sometimes he would use deception, and sometimes he would allow somebody to hold up Aaron's arm, one on one side and one on the other. Or they held up Moses' arm in Joshua 1. Then there are times he would empower somebody like he did Samson. Then there's sometimes he let your feet be like hind feet like David so that you could do things. We need to understand that we are supposed to be the light of the world. We are supposed to be the ones that are walking in the kingdom, and the gates of hell should not always prevail against us. And the only way you stop the gates of hell to prevail against you is that you're walking in the gate of righteousness. That means your righteous judgment is being known throughout the earth. And when somebody does something to you, when somebody hurts you, that offends the Most High God. And like you said in the days of Moses, when they left it out of the Bible, I heard them, Moses. I heard that crying. Time's up. I admit I didn't mean to go off on a little sermonette, but this stuff is real. We got people saying that racism doesn't exist. We don't need to use that term then. Tell me injustice don't exist. Tell me ill-gotten gain doesn't exist. I'm gonna give you this, and we can roll into chapter 4. Chapter 5. Let somebody have something else. Yesterday, I was out with Andrina, and we stopped at a place we normally don't stop to get something to eat. So I went into this place, a restaurant that sells chicken, and I asked them, because we didn't really want a whole lot, for 6 wings, whole wings. I said, "Do you have a special on wings?" I said, because sometimes if you buy in quantity, there's a different price. And if you all don't know that, sometimes restaurants won't tell you the best way to order. Sometimes they'll let you order the same thing in a different way, and it can cost you $3 as much, a third more. So I told the man what I wanted, and he said, "You paying cash or charge?" I said, "Which is better for you?" I mean, I could pay you cash. So he went to go get my order, and I asked him how much was it. He said, "What about $15?" I said, "That's fine. I mean, because I'm thinking I know things cost more." Then he asked me, did I want some pies, and then I told him I'd want some fries. So I gave him a 20, and I'm expecting $5 back. And he gave me some bacon. And all right, so I get my food, and I got a drink. And I get my food, and I start. He didn't give me my $5 back, and I didn't ask for it. I know he gave me more than I paid for, but I didn't see him put the money in the drawer. So I'm sitting there. I think I've eaten my first piece of chicken, and I don't want to eat this. I don't want to eat this and not pay for it. I don't want to benefit off something that is taken from the owner of that store and appropriated for myself, and I keep it because it was passed on to me by somebody else. Yeah, I gave some money, but I perceive that he did the wrong thing. And how can I do that and then say that the people that stole from my ancestors and their children have it, that they are in the wrong for keeping it? So I say to myself, what do I do? And Andrina said, "You're going to get out the car eating that piece of chicken?" I said, "Yep, I'm going to eat it when I walk in there." Call the man back. You want to know the name of the place? I'm not telling you because hopefully he's made some changes. I said, "What I just ordered out, I want you to give me the same thing again." He said, "Well, I said, "I know, but I want to go ahead and buy this one." So he rang it up. I gave him the credit card. And then when he brought it to me, I said, "I don't want the food." I said, "Come here a minute, bro." I put my hand on his shoulder. I said, "What you just did when you took the money, I'm not going to ask for it back. I figure you must have needed it for something." I said, but what you're doing?" I said, "I mean, you can be in the system. You can be locked up. They have cameras in here. If they're doing an audit and they see this." I said, "The Most High Yah does not want me to plant this kind of seed, that I'm a party to this." And I told him other various and sundry things of people, as someone that I know personally that did that and almost went to prison. And we got back in the car, and I told Andrina what happened. And it was like, it's bad enough to do wrong on your own, but to be led in it, because sometimes you don't want to get somebody in trouble. But here is the thing. When they left out this part, and we're not going to go through this, but I'm gonna show you something in Psalm chapter 50. In Psalm chapter 50, I want you to look at verse number 18. The Bible says, I need you to see 17. See, I teach the Bible, right? I teach the Bible. And this is what goes through my mind. Psalm 50 and 16. "But to the wicked, God saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldst take my covenant in thy mouth, seeing that thou hatest instruction and castest my words behind thee? When thou sawest a thief, then thou consented with him, and has been a partakers with adulterers." This is the very thing that those that still teach stay away from the Oldest Testament. You don't need that. You don't have to obey God. Grace covers everything. They are consenting with death of their foreparents. They are considering with all of the things that they've been able to get: the gold, the silver, the uranium, the platinum, the land, the oil, the mineral rights, and all of that, and say, "You know what? That's tough." Now, if you were a Ukrainian If you were a Japanese, if you were what they call a Native American and not include the black ones, if you were somebody in Iran and Iraq, we will give you restitution. But for you, we won't. And the Messiah says the same one that killed the prophets and did all that wickedness to them, you say we didn't do it. He said, but you by yourself have said that you're the children of those people. Figure out what he's saying. We think that we shouldn't be saying things. We're not going to be like the Most High God. We're not going to challenge the world of righteousness. We're not going to indict them for wickedness and ungodliness. And I submit to you, we are a pitiful example of the Christ. If all we can do is make people feel good about a Christianity that doesn't do righteousness and justice. I'm going to move into chapter 5, and if somebody want to roll back into chapter 4, they can. This is the book of generations of Adam. I just want to give you this first part. That word is Toledoth. Toledoth. Many believe that are written records of the descendants and the successors. Any of you all looked into chapter 5 and seen anything in that chapter that you can understand it had a benefit that to keep it from our people? Shall I read some of it? I guess I will. This is the book of the generation of the Toledoth, the written record of Adam. In the day God created man. In the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam in the day they were created. And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness after his own image, and called his name Seth. And the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. Anybody ready?
I would just say, in looking at it, I would say that there really wouldn't have been any benefit in or out, except that you couldn't, there was no use for it. And as far as perpetuating your doctrine or dispelling it. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I want you to hold that thought, and I'm going to give you my thought. And if my thought can be crushed, just be gentle. Okay? Uh, knowing what we went through, them talking about, and if I need to, I can read that pro-slavery catechism. But knowing what they said about us and how we really weren't the descendants, or that they weren't, we weren't the descendants of Adam. We were the descendants of another creature, pre-Adamite, such and such and such. A genealogy seemingly would lead one to the final conclusion in the book of Acts that we were made out of one blood. And in order to make themselves superior, better than us, and that we really had to be animals for them to be able to dissect us. And I'm not talking about just mentally, they did that, but physically as well. And to brutally beat us, sometimes up to 1,000 licks. Sometimes even some would, Derby's dose, where he would take a slave and make him defecate in another slave's mouth and wire his mouth shut. And you all call this, you say he wasn't even the worst. And if somebody say, Tim, you're making it up, you can look up Thomas Thistlewood or Derby's dose. So I see in the genealogy something that ties it to a history. And here's one of the things you say, Andrina. Many people that don't like the Bible and don't want you to know the Bible, they know it's not their history. So now, based on what you said and what I said, did you find any
I
holes?
concur. I concur with you.
Okay.
Yes, that this is not theirs. This a genealogy is solid, and it's like we can't teach you that, but they're not in this either. Because I'm thinking in my mind that you all know that you all may have flipped the script, and you all may know that you are the seed of Cain. And I mean, because if you're gonna say it's because you were black and that's the curse, then the other people will kill you if they see you. Then that would mean that everybody else would have to be white if it was black.
Right.
But I know historically, the Most High don't strike people with blackness. He's striking with leprosy, which is whiteness.
It is. Now that's true. And some people may think that she make that up. But I know for a fact that there is in Second Kings chapter 5, 2 KI 5. There was a man named Naaman, captain of the host of Syria, was a great man with his master and honorable, because by him Yahweh had given deliverance unto Syria. He was a mighty man of valor. So he needed to be healed from his leprosy. It doesn't tell you much about it yet. Now, if I'd have went to Leviticus, I could have done that. I could have done the same thing in Exodus. But I want you to see something. His servants came. Elisha was not impressed by his valor or his master's riches. So he got angry because Elisha wouldn't come out and tell him how to get healed. So he told him, well, wouldn't come out. He sent his servants to him to go bathe in this water. And the servants came to him and said, my father, if the prophet had heard thee or had bid thee to do some great thing, would you have done it? But much rather than wash and be clean. Now, whatever color he was, he had to wash and be clean. Is that fair? It is. And he went and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of the man of God, and his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a child, and he was clean. This man, after he had gotten healed, he wanted to pay Elisha. Elisha wouldn't let him. So this man Gehazi, he followed Naaman the Syrian. And he started telling him, my master says he's going to go lie. My master has sent me saying, I'm in verse 22, even now there come to me some from Mount Ephraim 2 young men of the sons of the prophet. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver, 2 changes of garments. And the man say, be content, take 2 talents. And he put it in the bag. Okay. So now she comes back, and Elisha, listen to what happened. He went in and stood before his master Elisha. I'm giving it to you like this, hoping that you'll read it. And Elisha said unto him, whence comest thou, Gehazi? And he said, thy servant went nowhither. And he said, went not my heart with thee when the man turned again from his chariot to meet thee? Is it a time to receive money and receive garments and olive yards, vineyards? They're talking about stuff. The leprosy, therefore, of Naaman shall cleave unto thee and to thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence, a leper, as white as snow. Did he say he went out black as snow? He said it's white as snow. So leprosy, when Moses stuck his hand in his bosom and pulled it out, it was white as snow. When he put it back in, it became the regular color. When you had leprosy and they would check for leprosy, when we look at some of the stuff in Leviticus, when they left it out, we're going to just kind of skim through. If the skin, you had a part of you that was white and the rest was black, you were unclean. The only way you became clean from your spottiness is you had to have the whole thing on you to show there was no infection or whatever it was. It was not Hansen disease. And Drina, because there are a lot of people that don't know these kind of passages in the Bible, and I tried not to read them all, but I read one to see that it could be passed down from generation to generation if the Most High Yah chooses to.
Right. I mean, we see in the case of Miriam, she was turned white for
Mm-hmm.
opposing Moses. And they couldn't actually move on until she was cleared of that the Most High released her those 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
So we see this, that it really actually it's not in the scriptures blackness that's called a curse. It's whiteness.
Yes.
And like I tell you all the time, they read this book and they know this book is black. They know it. And they decided that they would use it against you, reverse it, and make you the curse and not them.
That what you brought up about Miriam, I just pulled it up from this software where Miriam and Aaron stood against Moses, and y'all said, first of all, Moses fell on his face. This is just too much.
Right.
And y'all said, let's say it like the old folks to say, come here, come here. We say, come here. It said, the cloud departed off the tabernacle of the God that talked to him. It said, behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow, high select, just like the snow that had fallen. And
Now,
Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. Look at this one. Somebody say, I don't know if leprosy means white. In Leviticus 13:43, I'm in the middle panel, talking about leprosy. If there be in the bald head or the bald forehead a white reddish sore, it is a leprosy sprung up in the bald head or his bald forehead. And the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the rising of the sore be white, reddish in the bald head, or in the bald forehead, as the leprosy appeareth in the skin of the flesh, he is a leprous man, he is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him utterly unclean. The plague is in his head. The leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be torn, rent, bare, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip and shall cry, unclean, unclean. All the days wherein the plague shall be in him, he shall be defiled. He is unclean. He shall dwell alone, outside or without the camp shall his habitation be. And if the garment, this is if his garment and all of that, if it shows up in that, the same kind of thing. We'll deal with that later. I just wanted to make sure that for those that don't have a clue, it wasn't a rotting of the fingers. It wasn't a numbing of the hands. It was that white spot would come up. Now, if you're already white and the white spot come up, that's not anything that I think will stand out so much.
where's the one where it says about the yellow hair coming out?
It won't take me but a minute to find out. Yellow hair. I hope. All right, Leviticus 18 and 32. Talking about leprosy again. I'll click and pull it over on this side. It says, and the priest shall look on the plague or the skull, and behold, if it be not in sight deeper than the skin, and there is no black hair in it, the priest shall shut him up, him that have the plague, and it shall be 7 days. And in the 7th day, the priest shall look upon the plague, And behold, if the skull spread not, and there be in it no yellow hair. I know black people like they get yellow hair, but I mean, that might not mean anything to them. They say, but if there be no yellow hair, and the skull be not in the sight deeper than the skin, he shall be shaven, but the skull shall he not shave, and the priest shall shut him up that had the skull 7 days more. And in the seventh day, the priest shall look upon the skull, and behold, if the skull be not spread in the skin, or be in the sight deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. He shall wash his clothes, and the skull, let's say, but if the skull spread much, he'll wash his clothes and be clean. But if the skull spread much in the skin after his cleansing, the priest shall look upon him. If the skull spread in his skin, the priest shall not seek for the yellow hair. We already know he's unclean. Okay. And there's many other sundry things, but that was a good one. Is there another one you wanted?
No, I just want to say that if you are, you understand who you are and you read this and it's talking about yellow hair instead of black hair. And I have yellow. What if I have yellow hair, what we call blonde hair? You would probably feel some kind of way. Like, does this mean I'm unclean? What is this book saying?
Yes.
What is this book saying when it says that somebody get punished with whiteness? What is it saying? What is it saying about me? And you keep reading and you understand geography. And this is not where I live. This book was written about this place where it's hot, these hot regions, and where black people live. I can't imagine that they don't know this.
And when we get to Genesis chapter 10, I'm gonna definitely, I plan to, what I'll do is show where these regions of the world are, where Shem, Ham, and Japheth lived. Okay, I'm gonna be able to show you that Gomer and Javan, this is where we're gonna talk about where the Greeks come from. We'll talk about these things, and we're gonna be able to see that was the Bible written in what is called Gog and Magog. Was it written by the Caspian Sea or the Black Sea? Was it written in France? Was it written in Europe? Who had the scriptures first? I didn't say who translated, but the real thing is, who's the Bible talking about when they say he's going to bring in people from the coast of the isles, the ISLES, some Bible would say coastland. And why is it they left out Romans chapter 11, chapter 10, chapter 9, that talks about Israel as an olive tree is the one that bears all of those that came from the isles, from the coastlands, from the Black Sea, and the area of Ukraine. Where you get that from, Tim? Because Isaiah talks about them coming in and bringing gifts coming to Messiah. And obviously they didn't know, because Ephesians chapter 2 said they were strangers of the commonwealth of Israel. And yet he's saying these people that we're reading about in Genesis, and we're getting ready to, once we finish chapter 5, we're going to embark upon why was chapter 9, 10, 11, 12, where Abram is first mentioned, 13, where you're all up in Africa doing stuff, 14, when you start seeing him go down to Sodom, 15, where he makes a covenant with Abraham and it's not in Europe, 16, where he gets another woman, another wife from Egypt, which is in Africa. 17, where he makes a covenant and gives him the sign of circumcision, which many Europeans didn't have. How do we know? Because another set of books that they deleted from the scriptures the Hebrews had, called the Apocrypha, that they left in the Catholic Bible that they did not want their people to ever read, talks about them doing gymnastics or being in the gymnasium. And guess what? Guess how they wrestled in the gymnasium? Naked. And when you read in the Maccabees, you'll find out they looked at the Hebrew people as being circumcised, and they forced their culture on them, and they tried to uncircumcise themselves by taking stuff to try to stretch the skin back over their male member. Revelation says, add not to his word, nor take away.
That's
Taking
good.
away from his word is a lot. Go ahead, precious
That's
love.
good. That is good that you ended with that, because when they got this book and they read this book, well, let's say they translated it,
Mm-hmm.
they picked it apart, and they did the grammar, the structure, all of this,
Mm-hmm.
and then they wrote commentaries, and then they decided there was a reaction to this. This is information they received. What was their reaction? Look at their reaction. Look at what they did with it. They decided, what? We're going to leave parts out.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to create another narrative. We'll tell you that it's not necessary. And even if you think, if we tell you it's necessary, you're going to have to go through us in order to learn it. Because we hate God that much, because we know this book is right. We know it. But
Revelation 22:18, for I testify unto every man that heareth the words of the prophecy of this book. If any man shall add unto these things, God shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. We act like the Most High God doesn't have good sense, that he doesn't know what he means when he says it, but he does. And then I know Proverbs 30:5 tell you to add not to his word, lest you be found a liar, and he reprove thee. We know in the book of Jeremiah, and they left out all of Jeremiah, one of the biggest indictments that they had against him is that they stole God's word. This is why he hates false prophets. They add to, they take away from his word. I feel this is all we can do here on chapter 5. We make can we I've talked about what the genealogy is for. May give us a chance on Sabbath if we want to say something else, but if not, we'll go ahead and move to 8, because we just want to hit the highlights of the things that we see based upon how we were treated, what was done to us, why they left those parts out. Anyone else got anything to say on what we've covered thus far?
I was thinking along the same lines as you with the genealogy, but I think Ann had a very good point. But sometimes I'll try to anticipate an argument that might be used in discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And this may be weak. But they would keep a log. I don't know how in depth, but you've mentioned these ships and the names that were on these ships. So I would say the log is more to benefit them. I don't know how far they went back, but they would kind of, from what I know, have some information on where they come from and names and stuff. So just like some of these arguments are weak, just to bring that up, since we mentioned genealogy here, that might be something somebody will try to say. I don't think it helps their point at all, but I did want to mention that, well, this person comes from this, but the thing is, it's like, we didn't get, I guess you said, we didn't get to know. So
Right.
I wanted to kind of put that out there.
So thank you.
that was good.
It was. Elder Lane, you got a little taste of something for us? Well, I thank you all for joining us. And I pray that you all will go ahead and start looking at chapter 8. I did have something brought up and we didn't go into it. There's a thing that talks about the 10 names and the genealogy leads to about Noah, and something's going to happen. And I see about 8 of them line up with what I see. I still I think I still think it's probably true, but a couple of the names don't fit. But it just talks about man and his sorrow and death and all of that thing. God will bring comfort. That was Noah. Because not saying that that's the reason, but that is how things worked out. And that was the most that I had in chapter 5. So I would like us to go ahead and just group together 8 and 9. I believe 10 is going to need its own day, because I really would want to show the geographical places of chapter 10. And because I think when you see where they are, I think it'll just slap you in the face. I can see why they don't want you to know this, because they have a lot of pictures in picture books, in Sunday school books. And the places where we see Shem and Ham and their descendants, it looks different than what you see in the pictures. And the truth is supposed to make us free. The truth about Yah, truth about his word, the truth about his sons. Anybody want to say anything before I close out, please?
I would like
Yeah,
to
go
go ahead, Gary.
I will say the misentanglement. I don't know if that makes sense. The entanglement of misinformation
Mm,
persists with,
mhm,
well, I mean, like they're in overdrive like now.
mhm.
Like I can like type in something or look for something, and they'll tell you how the Hebrews. Let me see if I can think of one. How this is a common one. Egypt is not a part of Africa, so I went and I typed in is it Suez Canal, and I was looking at that, and then I was looking at how I can't remember if it was Alexander who had got part of it, or another nation. But it's like I can type in stuff and they are working in so overdrive. The Omex are not like nothing black, and I'm like, oh my God, you all are so scared. It's I don't remember seeing it exactly to this magnitude. It probably was there. I mean, we talk about commentaries and things like that, but it's in overdrive now. It is in overdrive. So, but this is good because I think if we can speak with the spirit of Yah and be knowledgeable, while you were talking that, and they perceived that they were unlearning, talk about that they had spent time with the Messiah, but they perceived that they were unlearned as far as what they call learn. Like they want to like exclude books, but it's like no, it's the truth. So it's like be ready for that. And so I've been thinking about how the Messiah often responded like with questions, and Paul, he didn't seem to really get up. I don't when I was reading some of this, I didn't picture him like yelling. Like I like what you said about he's like, oh y'all did this, people can do it open. But I was like, okay, how did he respond? How did he respond? So I'm like, okay, you know, take note, take note. Before I finish, Charles did log in, but he logged off probably about like maybe 5 minutes or so ago. So
Okay.
he did log in.
Bless his heart.
He sent you a little text. I think I don't know if a hand went up, but it's in the chat. So anyway.
Okay. I didn't see it, but I do appreciate when somebody decides to join in with us, because these if we think all we're supposed to do is get saved and have nothing else to do, then what we've done is we have moved the Most High Yah from what he was to start with. When he told the children of Israel, well, he told Moses first. And he said, Moses, you go tell Pharaoh, let my people go, that they may serve me, not so that I can take them into the promised land, so that they can go eat, drink, and be merry and do their own thing, that they can learn the ways of the Hittites, the Amorites, and all of the other ites, which are descendants of other people. That was never it. It's that I'm going to capture my people, my world back through you, that which has been given over to the wicked one by Adam and those that follow the wicked one. I'm going to have a people that will make it on earth as it is in heaven. Hence the prayer that the Messiah gave for the disciples. When you pray, I don't have to pray like this. When you pray, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed or holy be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done in earth as it is in heaven. That's our job. And if we're not going to allow people to know that wrong has been done and they're participating in it and not give them a chance to back away from the things that they know are wrong. Can't tell me it's not wrong and that this is only a black man's cry, because maybe half of my books, if not half, at least a good amount of them are not even written by black people. But don't get me wrong, more amount are written by black people. I don't dismiss our scholarship. But these are some of the people that had access to knowledge and books that we didn't have access to. And some of them wanted to do right. You see in the book of Acts, Luke wanted to get in on what was going on. Tamar wanted to get in on what God was doing with Judah. Ruth wanted to get in on it. There's some people God touched their hearts. And maybe we can indict many and incite many to do God's will. We have to be the faithful ones. May the Most High Yah bless us, keep us, make His glorious face to shine upon us, be gracious to us, and give us His shalom, total well-being, total righteousness, total ability to stand when it looks like we should fall, total ability to stand on the rock and make our way prosperous and have good success. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Love y'all.
We love you all too.